Good morning, everybody. How are we going? Sort of running a little bit behind at the moment, but anyway, we're on. We're ready to go. So, big week had at Coffs Harbour during the week. We got hammered by hailstones 2 days in a row, basically. And yeah, very exciting times. So anyway, but we're still here and we're still able to up and go. Okay, so anyhow, last week, what we did last week is I talked to you about different types of hinges. We did a little bit of testing on hinges, and I had a couple of comments on the chat about various types of hinges, and people were asking questions about it. So what I want to do this week is I want to clarify about the hinges, and we'll fit a couple this week as well, hopefully, if we get enough time. But I just want to clarify a few different things. When I'm using hinges, I generally try to sort of suit the hinge to the box that I am working on. Some boxes require full opening 90-degree butt hinges. Some boxes require stop hinges, and some boxes require different other types of hinges, and there are various places that you can get these. Now, most of the hinges that I use are fairly upmarket type hinges, basically because I think that the cheaper hinges make the box look a little bit cheaper. But the other thing about the cheaper hinges is you have to do a little bit of work to actually get them to fit properly. Now, the side rail hinges that we're going to be using on our box, there's only 3 makers of the side rail hinge that I know that are of reasonable quality, or actually they're top quality. And those hinges are these ones here. I've got Crawford hinges, I've got Hawthorn hinges, and I've got Brusso hinges. Now, the Brusso hinges are from the US. All of these hinges, the Hawthorn hinges are from Ireland, and the Crawford hinges are from England, right? So they're all from a different place and all need to be imported. The thing about them is that they're expensive. So I try to sort of make sure that the quality of the box fits the hinge, or the quality of the hinge fits the quality of the box. So we've got some sort of uniformity throughout the thing. Now, each of the hinges has a different knuckle system. If you look at the Crawford hinge, you can see it has that style of knuckle, which is quite good. The Hawthorn hinge, again, different type of knuckle. You can see it's like 2 leaves together. And the Brusso has a square back on it, which means extra work needs to be done to actually get that to work. So it's quite a difficult little hinge to fit. Mind you, fitting them, all 3 of them, is the same technique. Right? So we're going to worry about the technique. The hinge you can deal with when it comes to which ones you're going to use to put in the box that you're building. So we'll worry about fitting the hinge and how to get it fitted. There are a number of different ways. I'm going to show you 2 today. And for those hinge fitting techniques, the first techniques, you're going to need to make a stop. Now, these stops here, you can see on here I've got just a couple of little blocks. This one, I don't know if you can see the writing on them, but that one there, 24 millimeters for the Brusso, 31 for the, let's see it there, 31 millimeters for the Hawthorn hinges, and 34 millimeters for the Crawford hinges. Okay, so you're going to need those little blocks, depending on the hinge that you're going to use. So I've made up those. Now these are made from a piece of compact laminate, so you can make them out of a piece of hardwood, piece of timber. You can make them out of whatever you like, but they need to be accurate. So if you don't do them accurately, you're going to struggle a little bit. So let's show you how they all fit together, how it works. So the simplest and easiest way of getting these to fit is this way here. And I'm going to do a test joint for this one. When we do the box, I'll show you another technique that we're going to use. So with this method that I'm going to use now, you'll need to cut yourself a couple of pieces of test material. Now the test material should be exactly the same as the thickness of where you're going to fit them on the box. Okay, so for this one here, these are the same thickness as the rails on my boxes, on my box, which is the one we're going to fit it onto. So this is a technique. First of all, you will need a fence. Now I've got a small fence. You don't want a high fence for this. If you go to each of the suppliers of these hinges, you'll find that they've both got, or particularly the Hawthorne and the Crawford, they've both got this technique written out in a form that you can read. But this is the practical demo that I'm just going to show you now. Where do I put my bits and pieces? Oh, they're in front of me. So all we need to do now is 8mm or 5/16 router bit. Now I have an 8mm router bit. They are extremely difficult to find. The 5/16 probably would be an easy one to find. If you have found an 8mm one, this is a Carby Tool 8mm router bit, spiral bit, and I've had Carby Tool turn it down. Now it's something that they will do for you. It's turned down to 1/4 so that it fits my reducing collet. If you're using a Trident router, you've got a reducing collet that you can screw on that'll fit into. The normal size of that from Carby Tool is an 8mm shank, and you need an 8mm reducing collet. Well, I didn't have one, and I found it extremely difficult to find them, so I've gone to 1/4 and I've asked them to turn it down. The problem with that was that it was exceptionally expensive. Now that's because that they have to take a standard router bit and fit it to a machine and turn it down to the right size for you. So if you ask them, they will do it for you. It's not a problem. But like I say, it's a little bit exy. I don't know where to find the reducing collet. Maybe Carby Tool will have them. I don't know. I haven't looked through their catalogue for a little while, and I haven't spoken to anybody down there for quite some time. As you can imagine, they've all been locked away, and there's not too many people at the factory, unfortunately. So it's really difficult at the moment. But anyway, that's where I've got mine from. That's how I've come across that. I'm sure that there are other brands that will carry an 8mm upcut or downcut spiral bit with 1/4 inch. You need to sort of Google it, have a bit of a look around. I'm sure somebody on the chat will be able to sort of pick it up for you. So this is the technique. Okay, I've picked up the Crawford hinge. So technique, set your router bit. We'll go into here. Set your router bit to the height of the hinge. Okay, so it needs to be flush at the top, just like that. Okay, so I'm flush with the top. And then with my little spacer, I have my 34mm. Set the fence to the middle. Now you can measure this if you like. I'm just doing it by eye. So we set the fence so that we're working down the middle of our test piece. We bring our spacer up. Just got to lock that fence in. Now it is always a good idea to do this test and then put a stop at the end of your little block, your 34mm block. Now I've found that the Bessie clamp makes a very good stop. So if I just lay that flat on there, pull it up and just do that up. Take my stop out and there you have it. Now I'm all set up ready to cut. So we're going to cut that. I'll just show you.
So that stop was hard up against
the outside edge of there, yep. Okay, so that's hard up against, it's hard up against the inside edge. Yep. When we're doing a cut from the other side, we will put the stop on this side and cut from the other direction. That's the beauty of our tables. You can work around the table if you wish. I'm only going to make one cut because that's all I need to do to show you how it works. So we've got our stop in place. That's hard. This is locked in. That's locked in. If you need to make any movements, the stop is not going to move. You can move your fence back and forth if you wish. Okay. Now, when I'm cutting this way, what's going to happen is the router bit's going to try and kick the piece of timber away from the fence, right? So you need to be very, very careful when you're pushing this way. When you're going from right to left, which is a normal technique that I would be using, it's not such a problem because the router bit's trying to push a piece of timber towards the fence. And that's not going to worry you. But if you allow that to kick away, you're going to get a little kick out on a little bit of space around the edge of the hinge. So to stop that, I've made myself a little push block. Now this push block is only designed for this exercise. So all I've done there is made a little push block, and that way I can keep things fairly stable, and my fingers are away from the router bit. So let's cut that and I'll just show you how that works. Okay, I probably could have adjusted that so it's in the more in the middle, but as you can see, that will fit straight on there, and then we get a perfectly fitting hinge. So it's quite a neat little way of doing things. A little bit of sawdust in there that needs to come out. Just a little bit furry there. And that will fit straight into there. Okay, so we get a nice, clean, neat fit. And then it's just a matter of setting and putting in your screws. But you can see that it works exceptionally well. It's just quite nice. So that technique is a technique. Now, if you're doing it with the box, of course you won't need the push block probably because the box is going to be much bigger. Okay, so our next technique, I would do that with all three of those hinges. I've got a different setup for each one, but that will work for each of the hinges. So my next technique is going to be with another imported tool, and I'll show you when that comes around to it, you can purchase from the US this bit of gear. Now, I bought this from Rockler some time ago, and the Rockler system has a bar that fits between your two boxes, and you clamp this section here to the box, and then you have your different plates that you can actually, can't see it on the table probably, but you could just fit the different plates in, and they all have different areas, and you use a trimmer router with your router bit fitted on this technique. Now, they don't make one that fits the Hawthorn hinges, so I went along to my favourite green store and I bought some clear perspex, and I've made one for my Hawthorn hinges, and you can see that I've got the trench cut there, and I'll show you how that works when it time comes to do it. Okay, so hopefully that will be today. So let's put all that away, and then we'll get on with all the things we need to do to prepare for fitting the hinges. Okay, so take this out of here. So that technique is quite an easy technique to do. It doesn't take a lot of effort, and you can, once you've found the right router bits, you'll never go backwards. So it's just a matter of finding the router bits. This 8mm or 5/16 is the other size that that's recommended, and like I said, you can go into both the Hawthorn site and the Crawford site, and you can come up with that technique. Okay, so that's, I just showed you how to use it, so now it's all good. So now, the box. We have to start doing things with the box. So the first thing that I do with the box, what's going to happen is I'm going to put the hinges here and here. What I want to do is I want to take off a small chamfer, just arrow the edge a little bit, so that when we're opening and closing the lid, we don't get any binding of the back edge. Okay, so you need to do that before you start doing anything else. So we have our 45-degree router bit. Now, there's no set size that we have to do this, because you can do it just a small amount. Take a small arrow off, or you can take a larger one and make it a really defined looking 45-degree angle on the box, and sometimes that's a really good idea, because then what it does, it makes it a deliberate act. It's not something, oh gee, I had to do that afterwards. It's a deliberate thing, and it makes the box, or completes the box. Now on the back edge is fine. I don't generally go right around the box. I generally go only on the back edge. Okay, so the rest of it will fit flush, but the back edge has the 45 degrees. So we need to turn it upside down like so, and then we need to set the height of the router bit. I'll do it on the base before I do it on the box. Okay, so I've marked the back edge, so I know which edge I'm going to be cutting. And I've also marked the top of the box. That's where I'm going to fit the lid on later today, hopefully. But anyway, we'll see how far we get. So set the height. I'll just come into here. And I'm just going to set it very small. I'm not going to take a lot off. Just want to take a little bit off. Okay, so I could mark it. I'll do it by eye. It should be adequate. Now, we'll cut that in a sec. So the reason I'm doing that now is because when we cut the hinge slot, you're going to have a tiny little shoulder here. if you cut that shoulder after you've cut your hinge, you've got no support for any of the material on there, and it means a repair later down the track. So do it beforehand, and then you can work through it. Now, I did all the testing to get these hinges right before I cut this. Now I'm going to cut it, and because I've done my testing right, it should be a fairly smooth transition into cutting the hinges. So along that edge, so all I'm going to do is just run straight along here like so, and I think I might go this way and just cut myself a rebate. Now when you start, I'm just coming right in on that. When you start, you need to start right in the center of the router bit. So the corner has to start on there. If you start beforehand, you're going to go round the corner. If you don't stop right in the center, you're going to go round the corner, and you're going to bring the rebate around the arras around the corner. We don't want to do that. All I want to do is stop nice and clean on the corner, so I've got a straight edge here. Okay, so ears on everybody, and we'll just cut that. You have to readjust it, dropped. Okay, ears on, ready to go. I'm not sure if you can actually see that, but you can see I've just taken the tiniest little bit off. Okay, so that just enough to eliminate any binding. Now I need to do the box. My back edge. Same process. So the easy way is push in, move along, pull out. Okay, so that little U shape. Beautiful. It looks what that's done, it's actually made it look like it's a deliberate act. It's actually got a nice clean sharp edge on it, and they'll both go in together. Okay, so that's that edge there. Okay, so when they go together, that's what you're going to get. And when you see the back of the box, you can just see this lovely shape at the back. Get that? Tilt it up. Okay, really difficult to see that, but you can see it. It is there. All right. So very deliberate looking angle. Okay, so you can see it's just taken off just that tiniest little bit. All right. So now it's time to cut the hinges. Now, I'll just shift that round a bit first. Things become very fiddly occasionally, and you just need to sort of take your time, get things sorted. Don't want to drop it. Out of the way. This here, this here. Now, you need to do these both at the same time. So this is what's going to happen. What we're going to do is we're going to sit them both so that they're parallel to each other across the top, like so, and then we're going to cut this one Then we're going to turn it round and we're going to cut that end, right? So how do we get that to sit up there? Well, that's pretty easy. We just make ourselves a little frame. Now, it's just knocked together. It's nothing fancy. It's got a couple of screws in it. If you have a look, it's just a couple of bits of plywood, a couple of bits of MDF, and it's cut to the right height just with a couple of screws in it. And it's something very, very simple. So we sit that there, and we've got flush across the top, which is nice and neat. That's what we're looking for. Now, set up. Right. Set up. So with this rockler jig, you can see there's a bar across the back and there's a bar down the center. That bar in the middle goes between these parts here, and that side there goes against the back edge, and that's what keeps it nice and flush and flat the whole way through. So it just sits like so. Come in with that camera again. So it just sits like that. You've got the bar down the middle and you've got that there, and where two pieces are actually up against the gear. Now it's just a matter of clamp everything in. Just make sure everything fits nice. Like so. Clamp this into here. And we'll clamp another one onto this side.
It makes more sense when you've got it on the actual setting up the box, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're right, Pammy. It's at least it makes a little bit of sense now. And then this is our template, and it just fits in like so. And if you see down here, I've got a track where I'm going to run my router bit. Okay. So my little trimmer router, just a little Makita, nothing fancy. I could plunge it if I like, but I've got this router bit set to, it's another 8mm router bit set to the right size. The guide in the bottom, the brass guide, is exactly the same size as the rebate in the top of the template. So it's just a matter of sitting that on there, and then I'll just move back that way and back this way, and we'll have a little cut. Okay, now this doesn't make all that much noise. It does make a little bit of noise, but not that much. Just make sure that the router bit is not touching anything. Okay, now there's a build-up of sawdust in there, so I just want to get that out and then I'll recut, just to make sure that I've got it right. Just don't, so sometimes the sawdust gets caught, particularly when you've got a furry bit, it gets caught in the template itself, and consequently it can't go along to its full distance. Just recut very carefully. Okay. Pull the template out. Wow, actually that's broken away, the end of one of those pieces, which is a bummer because then I've got to do a repair. But basically, there's my hinge set in place, and when I put the other side in, it will fit into there. Okay, so quite a nice fit. Beautiful. Now, the other side. As you can see, there's a little bit of damage here. On this piece here, which means I've got to do a little repair. And that might have been caused by the fact that the timber itself was faulty. I'm working on end grain. Just getting that little bit of fur away from there. Okay, so this side's spot on. Okay, so that one fits absolutely brilliantly. It's going to be a nice fit. It's going to look really nice. And this side here, I'm going to have to repair that little edge there. Okay, so it won't take a lot to repair it. It'll look quite nice when I've finished. But basically, that's what's going to happen. So let's turn the box around. So it's just a matter of pick the whole lot up, turn it round, and then reset. So back in here. Like so. Little cramp. I'm not doing that up fully at the moment, just let it sit there for the moment. Just make sure that everything that I've got all set up is right. I probably could have moved the hinge a little closer in towards the centre of the box. Just make sure my setup is correct. Find my template. Fit my template in. There we have it. And then it's a matter of making sure I've got that between the two bits. Watch there. Okay, so here we go again. This one did exactly the same thing as the other side. Unfortunately, now I have some repairs to do. Probably would have been better if I had used the original technique that I showed you, but never mind, that's the way it goes. Yeah. So I'm going to have to do a weekly show on how to repair a little failure. Doesn't always go like that, but this one happened to. Just get all this furry stuff off the edges. Will still fit the hinge. The silver ash tends to be a little bit furry when you're running with the grain. Just making sure I've got all that right. So we're pretty good there. Apart from that little bit of damage there and there, we're pretty right. Pencil mark on there, I don't know why that's there. Test fit that. Beautiful. That's one. And this one will go into there. And quite a nice fit. So that looks nice. Now it's a matter of putting some screws in. Probably could have gone a little bit deeper, but it's fine. It's going to have a little gap, but that's fine. Now with the screws, you can use this little gadget, which, as you can see, I don't know if you can see that, it's got the drill bit in the middle. Okay, so when you pull it back like so, I can use that. That will give me a centered drill. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that, shift some of this stuff. But when you put the hinges in, let's go to this one here. When you put the hinges in, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the hole is pointing a little bit forward so that it pushes the hinge into the rebate that you've just cut. All right. So I'm going to put the first one in here. Now it's just a matter of doing this. And instead of having it straight down, just tilt it over a tiny little bit. You'll notice I've got my thumb at the back of the hinge. Now the hole is a tiny little bit forward of the centre of the Now, people say, every time we get brass screws, I rip the top off them. So the best thing to do, is me fiddling around in here, a little steel screw. Right? So that's going to be my thread cutter. Screwdriver. You can see it's tilted a little bit forward. And what that's doing is just cutting the thread. And if you damage that screw, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to stay there. It's going to come out. And I'll put the brass one in. Nice, nice. Okay, so let's go to the other side. Steel screw again. Could use electric drill for this, but I'm not using my hand screwdriver. Is adequate. Remember, we're only putting 4 screws in, so we have that one in there. Pull it out. And always take your time with this. Don't rush it. If you tend to rush things, you tend to break things, or they don't get done properly. Now I've rushed this a little bit and I've got that damage on the outside, but I'll show you how to fix that later. But now I have, that one works, that one works. And now we fit this one in here. Don't need that. Again, same process. I've got to find that steel screw that I had. There it is. Steel screw is getting a fair workout. Okay, pull them out. Put the brass one in. Oh, drop that one. Thank you, Pammy. Pammy's got good eyes. She picked that. Whoops. Gosh, that was close. Not watching what I'm doing. Not going to fall out now. Look at that, nice. Okay, so now that I know my hinges fit, okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit the top of the lid, okay? So I don't need to put all the screws in. I'll just leave one out and leave these out, and I will get that fitted perfectly. Once I've got the top on it. Okay, so a little bit more work and it should be perfect. So I'll take that apart again. So everything works, everything fits. And what I want to do is I want to try and prep for fitting the lid. I'm running out of time, so take that out. We don't need that box anymore. So I'm just going to pull it apart and then I'm going to show you what the next step is. You can see they fit really nicely. Now if I was doing the Crawford hinges, I'd be doing exactly the same technique. So now we have those, as you can see, we have some really, really nice hinge slots. They look quite nice and they all fit together nicely. So it's just a matter of now fitting the top of the lid. So that technique now has to go to, this is our lid. Okay, so what I want to do is fit that onto there like so, but what I need to do is I need to cut a rebate around here so that it recesses into the box frame. Now, the other technique that I'm going to do is I want to round over top and bottom edge. And there's a technique involved in that because we're going to take a rebate out of it to start with, so the rounding over bit that we're going to use has to be lifted or lowered, so depending on what we're going to do. So that's going to fit into there. So to get that sorted, what I need to do, don't need this tool anymore, what I need to do is line it up so that it fits. Now, the grain pattern that you have on there is going to be a particular grain. So what we need to do is work out whether you want that at the top of the box or this at the top of the box. So where you want the back or the front of the box, you saw when we put it in the frame, we squared it up, made it nice and square, so it should be a really nice fit. So we set it on like so. And we just make sure that the corner, let's go to here, the corner is right in the middle of our miter joint. We'll do that there and here. You can see you get that right into there. And once you get that set up like so, you then just check measure. Just making sure I've got the same measurement all the way around. The sides. Pretty good. And now what I want to do is I want to mark the inside. So sharp pencil, make sure it's sharp, and we mark the inside of the box. Okay, so what we have here, you can see I've got the inside frame of the box. That is where I'm going to rebate into. So I'm just going to measure that distance from there to there. Okay, just make sure I've got that right, and I'm going to set my tenon cutter into that. Okay, so it doesn't look like we're going to get there today, but at least we'll get set up sorted. So, tenon cutter, and the tenon cutter, square tenon cutter, so it's going to be the round bit we use. Fit that in. if I just cut the tenon today, at least we'll have something done for next week. The tenon's going to be set at 2 mil. All right, so we get our height to 2 mil. I don't want a great deal of material inside the box, like so. And now it's time for a fence. Now, what we've done, or what I've done over the last couple of weeks, is one of the things that a couple of people on the chat have been saying about dust extraction and all that sort of stuff. I sort of put my head down and built myself a dust extractor like this. So a fence with a dust extractor on it. All it is, I'll just show you what it looks like, is two pieces of material. One's screwed to the other. Right. If you turn it over, you'll see that I have, all I've used was pocket hole screws to join the two pieces together. I've cut a 50mm hole in the middle of it, and then the rebate, which matches up to my tenon cutter, is cut out of the bottom of it, right? And then on the top, I have, now this is the cheap way of doing it, and it's, if you can't afford, or you're not in a position to be able to purchase fences with fancy factory-made dust extractor connections, this is a very simple way of doing it. I'll just get this off here. There you go. All I have is two T-nuts set into the fence, and a second one exactly the same, so I can change from fence to fence just by changing over my dust extractor connector. So I've got the two holes, the 50mm. This one's set up for a spiral bit. Okay, so just a different route a bit. So getting away from these, which was the standard size we used, and the standard one we used, I'm going to be using this one anyway, but the standard one, we now have a dust extractor system. So easy enough just to swap it over. Just screw in.
And that's a gutter connector.
Yeah, this is just a gutter connector, as Pam was saying, just a little, go along to your favourite hardware store, a couple of rivets and a bit of angle aluminium. And there you have it. Nice, quite simple, easy dust extractor. This will connect up to my hose. So what we're going to do is we're going to shift the camera over to that side there. I'll just show you how I'm setting this up. So that's going to set up like this. Just move the camera on. So just screw that under. Yeah, right over there. And as you can see here, all I have to do now is set my distance, and I can slide that through into there. And I've got to get that measurement right first. Okay, so I've got 19mm there. I've got 19mm there, so it's 19mm all the way around. So I'm not going to go all the way first go. Go most of the way, but not all the way. So that's about 18mm, and I'm going to creep up on fitting it. Right, set up in place. Now, the dust extractor unit just fits on like so. Now, we're going to turn the dust extractor on, but if it's too noisy, give us a shout out on the thing, and we'll turn it off, and we'll see how it goes from there. So this is connected up to my my big system, and unfortunately I don't have the dust extractor encased in a soundproof casing, so it's just what we get for the noise. So I'm all set up, ready to go. Okay, turn it on, Pammy. So that's too noisy. I think the router's going to be a little bit more noisy than that. Okay, so here we go. Well, thanks, Rob. At least Rob said he couldn't hear it, so well, I could hardly hear it. I'm glad it's not that loud, because I'm going to start using it a lot. And as you can see, everything's lovely and clean, and it's just a matter of taking the extractor off. Thank you. And if I want to change my template, change my fence to a different router with a different router bit, then it's just a matter of unscrewing that, take this off, put it on the other one, and so on. Very simple, very easy way of doing things. I've got no mess anywhere. It hasn't gone onto the floor. It's actually sucked the whole lot up through the system, and it's all gone. And it's easy enough to sort of change it around. Now, I could get a solid fence that does all of those things together, but I like to have a little bit of control over the router bit or the piece of material as it goes through my router bit. So what I'll do is, through the week, I will finish recessing this into the lid. Okay, you can see, if you look here carefully, you can see I've got a nice little rebate. Okay, so it's not very much, just a quiet little rebate, and it's just a matter of just tidying that up and getting it right into the line, so that I get right up in close to the line, and then I'll fit it into the bit. Okay, so that will fit like so. And you can see I've still got a little bit to take out, but that's how it's going to fit in there. Okay, so nice and square and lovely. Okay, so that will happen next week. Okay, so we're going to stop there. I'll finish that off during the week and round it over, and I might put a little video up. And through the week, just showing how to round over the edges, and I'll fit it all together, and then we'll finish off fitting the hinges. I've just got a couple of little things to do to it, like repair that little corner, and then we should be able to go get set to start looking at doing some finishing and so forth on the box. So this is all the hard work. This is all the stuff that's fiddly bits. So if there's a little bit of damage, you have to fix it. If there's, and so forth. So we'll go from there. Now, if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, do so, because then you can join in the chat, of course, and you'll also get a reminder as to when we're live streaming, which we do every Sunday morning, and we'll go through each of the little projects. If you have any questions that you need to talk to me about, you can email me or call me. I'm on the phone all the time, so I'm already there. If you're going over to watch Dave, I believe he's going to be making a surround for a tree. I think he's done a new deck on his house, put a new deck down, so he's going to be doing some work on that for you today. So that should be a bit of interesting, bit of fun. So have a little bit of a look at that. And all I can say now is stay safe, everybody, and I will catch you all next week.